We are a month and some change away from Marvel Spider-Man 2 being in our hands. The hype is so real. Of course, we're all insanely looking forward to the fact that the game is going to be in our hands come October 20th. Pretty much a month from now, we're going to be playing the game. That's about as exciting for me as it would be for you to scroll down and hit the thumbs up button, especially if you're hyped for the release of the game. But one thing that we're all looking forward to on top of that is, well, what's beyond? Does Marvel Spider-Man 2 have any post-launch content planned? The first game, we knew at this point that there was going to be an expansion. We knew with the collector's edition that you were going to be able to get your hands on the City That Never Sleeps DLC, which was 3 episodes that spanned over several months after the game came out. And well, with Marvel Spider-Man 2, there currently isn't anything like what they did with Spider-Man PS4. They didn't mention the fact that there's going to be a DLC expansion tied to the collector's edition or the digital deluxe edition. We're just getting alternate suits and then of course that awesome statue. But all hope for DLC might not be lost quite yet, thanks to a fellow content creator covering Spider-Man in the space, Deeper Depths. And for those of you who don't know, the Deeper Depths has an awesome podcast that I was actually invited on at one point, but he's interviewed people who are way cooler than me, including the voice of Venom, Tony Todd. He even interviewed Stephen Oyoung at one point as well, the voice of Mr. Negative, and well, the face of the character, and we know that Mr. Negative's returning in Marvel Spider-Man 2. But recently, Deeper Depths was able to meet Nadji Jeter, the voice of Miles Morales, at a local convention that he went to, which I'm super jealous because Nadji Jeter unfortunately couldn't make it to my local convention. And there are some hints about something coming in the future. We'll talk about that in a sec, but first I do have to address the elephant in the room. Because right now there is a strike looming on the video games industry. For those that don't know, and well, if you don't, you're living under a rock, SAG-AFTRA, the WGA, they've been striking against Hollywood due to unfair pay and as well for protection against AI for quite a long time now. And to my understanding, although all this stuff is very tricky and I don't want to speak out of turn here, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, right now they're voting to strike against the video games industry, specifically against companies like Insomniac Games, WB Games, and several more. This would mean if the vote goes through, if the negotiations aren't met to the point where people at SAG are happy, well then people in the games industry can strike against these major companies. Now at one point or another, people were worrying that maybe this could mean Marvel Spider-Man 2 is gonna get delayed. I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think all the performance capture and anything that would involve what they're going to be striking for is already done for that game. And with games, unlike movies, they don't necessarily do things like press junkets, so there isn't a huge reliance on having the actors available to do interviews or promotion. So no, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is almost certainly not going to be delayed, especially considering it's just a little over a month out. But even then, a delay shouldn't even be what's worrying us right now. That should be the last thing on our minds. Instead, what we should focus on is rallying together, supporting the WGA as well as SAG-AFTRA in their efforts to try and get better pay and as well protection against certain things that are not great for the industry. So my fingers are crossed that there isn't going to be a strike, mainly because I hope that SAG-AFTRA and everybody involved gets exactly what they want out of this. I hope that they go to negotiations, that they talk it out, and that they work it out. But okay, back to the topic at hand. Like I said, Deeper Depths met Nadji Jeter at that local convention, and per what he was mentioning in his video, and I trust his word considering the people he's met and the people that he's interviewed on his channel, he said that Nadji Jeter told him he wouldn't be able to appear on his podcast until sometime in 2024, and then also mentioned that sometime in 2024 he's working on a project actually with Yuri Lowenthal and Tony Todd. Now, all 3 of these guys are actors and they do a lot of stuff. I'd have to imagine that they have a million projects going on at once. So the likelihood that this is something Spider-Man related, I wouldn't say is astronomically high. However, it's certainly an interesting coincidence that the 3 guys who work on this upcoming Spider-Man game are going to be doing a project together at some point next year. And I honestly think the fact that they didn't announce a DLC pack with Marvel Spider-Man 2 with like the collector's edition or the digital deluxe edition is because they're working on a major expansion. You know, between Spider-Man PS4 and Marvel Spider-Man 2, we had Miles Morales, which was admittedly a smaller game when compared to what they did with Spider-Man PS4. Now, I have my own personal opinions about the fact that I totally would have paid full price for that game, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to say is I think they're doing that again in the form of an expansion for Marvel Spider-Man 2 to have an in-between game leading us into Marvel's Wolverine, which could release in 2025. Granted, a game like Marvel's Wolverine could be greatly affected if a strike goes through within the game's industry, even if that DLC is what's happening, that project that Nadji Jeter, Tony Todd, and Yuri Lowenthal are working on in 2024. If it's going to be DLC for Spider-Man 2, that'll also be affected by a strike. So I'll reiterate once again that I really hope the folks at SAG are able to get exactly what they're asking for, or at least are able to settle on something when they go to negotiations later this month. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that we're looking forward to, but we have to understand that there are real human beings working on these games and they deserve better. So we'll just have to wait and see how all this shakes out, but it is interesting nonetheless that Nadji Jeter revealed to deeper depths that he's working on something next year, or hopefully so, with Tony Todd and Yuri Lowenthal. I find it most interesting because this looks like the new direction that PlayStation is going in with their big exclusives. Rather than rushing out the door some DLC expansion that maybe didn't have the level of care or time put into it as the main game did, instead, they let the game come out, live on its own, have people excited, and enjoy it at its fullest, and then at some point a couple of months down the line, release a big expansion for that game. There just isn't a universe, honestly, where I don't think Spider-Man 2 gets any sort of post-launch support. It is such a major IP. There's so much behind it. I'd have to imagine that Insomniac, Marvel Games, PlayStation are all rallying together to put as much into this game as possible. Because especially when you look online right now at how hungry, the way that people are salivating, foaming at the mouth for just one new trailer, my goodness, the hype for this game. We're going supersonic with Marvel Spider-Man 2, and honestly, that gets me excited. The only thing that I gotta hope for here is that it lives up to these expectations, but in Insomniac, we trust. And with that being said, let me now kick it to you guys. Sound off with your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think that what Nadji Jeter is working on with Tony Todd and Yuri Lowenthal has something to do for Marvel Spider-Man 2? Or do you think that that was just a coincidence and they're not really doing anything for the game? Aside from that, do you think as a general note that there's going to be DLC for Marvel Spider-Man 2? I think at the very least, they're going to add like a suit pack or just have free suits come to the game like they did with Spider-Man PS4. Sound off with all your thoughts in the comment section below. Once again, I support SAG-AFTRA, the WGA. There are links in the description box below if you'd like to lend your support to them as well. And with that being said, I've been Caboose, and I'll see you guys later.